Hi friends, welcome back to my studio. I'm Katie and today we are stamping. Yes. So these are the stamp sets that came with the Planners Anonymous Mermaid Shores kit. They came with two because one of them was the bonus item. There's always one set in every kit, but there are two in this set. And there are, I believe, 9 different bodies and 13 different heads that you can mix and match and combine to make all kinds of adorable mermaids. But people are a little intimidated. There are some people who've never stamped before. There are some people who have, but never like this. There's some people who used to and haven't gotten back into it yet. And this is for all of you to encourage you that this isn't that scary. We can do it. We can end up with some awesome mermaids. So I've been experimenting with these for the last couple days and really enjoying myself. I'll show you some of the kind of ridiculous things that I've made. So today I'm going to show you 3-ish, 3.5, 2.5, several different kind of levels of intricacy based on your comfort levels messing with this stuff. And so we can keep it really simple and we can get pretty intricate. All of these, in my opinion, are still fairly beginner friendly if you want to. I'm the kind of person who always likes to go for it. I am not an expert by any means. I just have a willingness to go for it. And so if you do too, you might really enjoy some of the intricate ones. If you really don't, we're going to also keep it simple. Let me show you some supplies. So you need your stamps. These are from Planners Anonymous, but these techniques would apply to other things. But these are clear photopolymer stamps. You need some ink. This is the VersaFine. It's a really nice black. It picks details up really well. Lots of people really like it. But there are lots of other inks you can pick. I like it because it's a pigment ink, so it's not water soluble. So I can go over it with some markers once it's dried and it won't smudge. I really like that. I recommend having a washi tape that you are not emotionally attached to. You'll need some paper. So this is HP Premium 32-pound paper. I really like this stuff. It's nice and white. It doesn't have a lot of show through. We'll play with it, but I'm going to recommend that you not stamp these kinds of things, at least not initially, right onto your planner pages. I'm going to recommend you do it on something else and then you cut, or at least you practice, and then maybe if you like how it turns out, you can cut it out, you can replicate it, or you could do it on sticker paper, which I think is what I'm going to do for my planner tomorrow, is stamp onto sticker paper, cut it out, and then use them as stickers. It just, I'm a go for it kind of girl, but sometimes you don't want the stakes to be that high. And if you do it on something else, then if you're happy with it, you can use it. And if you're not happy with it, it's not on your page. But if you want to go for it, by all means, if you don't like it, you put a sticker on top. Or you learn to live with it because it might not be as bad as you're imagining. You've got options. But I recommend a nice quality paper. This is not a must-have, but I did get it this week, and I do really like it for these. These are the Crayola Colors of the World washable fine line markers, and it's 24 different colors that work really well for skin tones, which is nice if you want to color in your mermaids. I have this Super Tip Crayola 100 pack, and there are a couple of colors that could be a good skin tone, but I bought these and I've been glad to do that. So that's what I'm going to use. Your mileage may vary. You don't have to color them in. You don't have to give them a skin tone of any kind. Then the last thing, and what I consider to be the most important, is some kind of stamp positioning tool. I have a whole video about why I recommend that and what the details on this one are. This is just something I made myself. I will post that video here. I really recommend you watch it if you are unsure. But there are some actually pretty cheap ones on Amazon. The name brand ones have a lot of features and are very expensive. I think they're worth it, but they might include features you don't care about. The only thing that we're going to need for this is the ability to open it and close it, and for it to have a closed hinge. Other ones have magnets and they've got things. They're great if you're trying to stamp a whole series of cards and you want them all to turn out exactly the same, or other kinds of features. But the only thing you need for this is the ability to see through it and a hinge. Mine's kind of dirty. I don't recommend making yours out of white tape, which is what I did, but it's just 2 pieces of plexiglass held with a spacer here and then with white tape on it. I'll post that video. Check it out. But in my opinion, this is it can't be the most important thing because you need your stamps and whatever, but this is the key to fear-free stamping, being sure you're going to like what you get. So I can't recommend this highly enough. If you're intimidated, if you're scared, this is the magic bullet. All right, let's do the absolute most basic. And I guess I didn't mention in the materials, you can use stamp blocks. That's what a lot of people use for stamping. I don't love stamp blocks, but you can use them, and especially for this first technique, you can. I'm not going to, but especially for this first absolutely most basic one, absolutely. So for the absolute most basic, I'm going to take some washi tape. I always like to stick it on my clothes or my skin once or twice to take a little sticky off, because I have had problems tearing my page. Now, if you're using scrap paper, it doesn't matter as much, but I'm going to tape both at the top and at the bottom just so that my page doesn't move. That's going to make the most of the hinging. And the most basic version, and I don't even want to call this level 1 because it's not anything, is to just do the heads. If you're intimidated by the heads and the bodies and whatever, you'd still get some absolutely adorable things to put on your projects with just the heads. So we'll do a quick, very basic of how this works. You take your stamp, you place it where you want it, exactly where you want it. Obviously right now I'm just doing a blank sheet. You close it, you pick it up. It was stamping side down on the sheet, right? So that when I pick it up, now it's stamping side up. I can put the ink on it, close it, and it will go onto my page. You don't want those inverted, but you probably only make that mistake once. All right, so stamps come sometimes with some manufacturing process stuff on them. So you want to get that off when you start, and you can just use a pencil eraser and gently go over it. I've already done that, but you might want to prime your stamps. But if you're practicing, then you'll essentially prime your stamps by using them. So that's fine too. I'm going to take my ink, just give it a couple dabs, and I'm already remembering some materials I forgot. We'll close it, and we'll give it a little pressure. I'm going to give it really little pressure so I can show you why the stamp positioning tool, right? I didn't put enough pressure. I didn't get a full impression. If you're using those acrylic blocks, now you're in trouble. You've got to line it up perfectly. For this, all you have to do is close it. If the paper hasn't moved and it's all hinged, all you have to do is give it a little more pressure and see, and look how much better we are. Maybe even do a little bit more. You don't want to put too much pressure because the lines will kind of broaden and you won't get all the detail. But look how cute that is. And if you wanted to just keep it simple, you could just put her head in your planner. You wouldn't have to deal with any of the other things. If you're feeling confident about other stuff, you could like draw a facial expression in there, just like a little smile, you know, nothing intense. And like that, we'll call that level 0, but you know, worth having. Here are the materials I forgot to include. I keep a water spray bottle and just a cloth that I don't care about. Some people use baby wipes instead of the two of those together. So I just take this and I carefully give it a little spritz, take my cloth and give it a gentle little rub. Trying to get the nooks and crannies, but not like being rough with it. And you can take it off, make sure there's no extra water on your mat thing, and you're good to go. So that is level 0, I think I called it. My terminology here is iffy. Let's talk about level 1. So these are my sample pages where I was playing with them earlier this weekend. And I did every body with every head, which is a lot. It's 13 times 9. And honestly, there are a couple I skipped because some of them are like clearly the backs of the bodies and some of them are clearly the fronts of the bodies and some of them, like, I think you can make this one work. It's wrong. You can tell there's like a shoulder blade there and whatever, but it's like not so dramatically wrong that like it pulls attention, I don't think. And I think you could easily draw a little something or put the shell bra on her, and I don't think it would be that noticeable. But some of them are more obviously wrong, particularly when you're dealing with the backs of the head ones. So like I didn't even do the back of the head on this one, which is clearly the front of the body. Sorry. Stupid computer is making sounds. But I did do some of the like ones that are a little questionable. So this is what I'm calling level 1, mixing bodies and heads. And I went through them all, and honestly, I don't think you really need to do any masking. I guess we can go through them, but for the most part, they're just good to go, or they're dense enough that it doesn't matter. So for example, one could mask here to make sure that her hair is over her body, right? If you're worried about that overlap, but it's like, it doesn't really bother me personally. And that's how I feel about almost all of them, is that they don't really bother me. So the braid ones, yeah, you'll get some overlap. You could decide to mask them. We'll cover masking here in a minute. But like the one with the hair in the bun is just like totally fine. The ones with the long hair, they cover, but like not badly. We'll get to these in a minute. This is me playing. You know, that could bother you. It doesn't bother me. So you could do this level, I think, of stamping, you know, like this, without really having to do anything extra at all, in my opinion. So props to Sammy. So yeah, here's where it gets a little more. So with like the back of the head, you know, there's more here, but if I just colored her hair a darker color, or even, you know, hair isn't, you know, totally opaque, right? There are individual strands. You can often see a little bit of something behind it. So that doesn't bother me. The short-haired one, totally fine. So let me just show you an example of combining a head and a body. We'll call this level 1. And it's really pretty simple. So let's do this braid hair girl. And again, you put it stamping side down, exactly where you want it. Close it. Open it up. Get a little ink. Close. Some nice soft pressure. Trying to get all the parts. Open it up. If I hadn't gotten a good impression, I could close it, but it's fine. Take my water. I like to clean as I go because it's really easy to get ink on your hands and then just get ink everywhere, and that might still happen, but and then we have to decide what body we want. And honestly, I've been using these so they're not as lined up as well, but like you can take the clear and kind of get a sense of what it would look like, you know? So let's do this body here. All right. So a thing to know about lining up the body is that there's a little knob here. I don't know if you can see it, and it's kind of in my way visually. And it's not an inked part, and I'm going to cut it off because it's not helpful. Okay. So, with these clear polymer stamps, it does take a little practice to see where the actual stamping is going to happen, because you don't want to line it up with this outside outline. That's not where the stamping is happening. The stamping is happening, you can kind of see because I've used this before, that it's a little stained black where the actual stamping is going to happen, but it's these raised indentations here. That's where it's going to go. So I like to line it up exactly where I want. In general, when playing with these, I've found that it's better to leave a little gap for the neck, and then you can either go in and fill it in with like a pen or just leave it. But I like that better than trying to like shortchange her on the neck, because there's a certain elegance to having kind of a longer neck rather than a short one. So I've lined it up exactly where I want it, right? And this is the beauty of the stamp positioning tool, right? Is like now I can see exactly how it's going to look. If I wanted to mask it, I can see where I want it to right now. As I said, we'll talk about that later, but like I can see exactly, if I wanted to, I can be like, you know, that neck isn't exactly where I want it, or the angle of the body, or whatever. And it does help to get your head directly above it, which I can't do because the camera is directly above it. So we're just gonna go and we're gonna remind ourselves that like the stakes aren't that high. Close it. Open. Do a little inking. And there you see, I didn't line up. It's the necks are a little challenging, and so I don't have a pen nearby, but so I'll just do it with a pencil. Like you can really easily just take a pen and do that, and then like it's not a problem, right? Whereas like if you cut it a little too close here, you might get an overlap or something. It takes practice, but there you have it. You can see I maybe pushed a little hard here. That's why like that line is so much thicker than some of the others. So that's just a thing you get practice at. But now you've got a full mermaid, and we'll call that level 1. And off the top of my head, I can't remember any like real difficulties with any of the heads or the bodies in combination. They don't all look great together because of the backs of the head and the fronts of the body kinds of things, but honestly, I think they're pretty much all as easy as this one, and you just go for it. So if we wanted to, we could take this little shell bra too. It's hard for me to know which things are meant to go together. I think that's true. I think this is meant to be the little shell bra from the side, and this is from the front. Honestly, I don't love these so much, and I think my personal preference is going to be just to draw something myself, because I think this is going to be a smidge big and not always at the right angle for all of them. And you don't have to add anything. They're little cartoons. Nothing is required. But you can see how like easily I can get that to like line up. And I could have used a colored ink there if I wanted to. And like I have a perfect mermaid, essentially. And again, if you want to, the minis from Planners Anonymous don't usually have faces, so you don't have to, but like you could have them like reacting to something in your planner or whatever. It's easy. It's just a couple lines. If you do it in pencil first, you know, you're not stuck with anything. So that's up to you, but now you can do, let's see, I don't remember off the top of my head. 117 different combinations of this. More actually, because I didn't include the little shell bra. That would multiply things even further. But 117 different head and body combinations, although not all of them work great together, but a lot of them do. So if you are brave enough to get to level 1, you already have that many options. Okay, who's ready to get a little more intricate for what I'm calling level 2? Level 2 is having them interact with something else. So I went through every single stamp set that I own from Planners Anonymous, and like this isn't all of them, but like to see what they could be interacting with. And there are a ton of things they could be interacting with. Planner Love has some great ones, like this little speech bubble. Maybe do that in a color or something. And that looks really great with this lounging one. I didn't line these quite up perfectly, but you could have this little mermaid like sitting on your iMac, right? Like how cute is that? I really love this one here. This is from Masquerade. But like you could have, this is the banner and have it say like June, which I realize it's July, but July has an ascender, which I don't want right now. And like, look how cute that would be. So there are a ton of these kinds of objects. This one is from Bon Voyage. This is from Country Cottage. Over the years, there have been a lot of these, and so I'm going to show you how to do them. Let me think about what the most interesting example is. Maybe we'll do the Planner Love one. So I can show you, we're going to do a little masking. You can see that evident by the fact that, right, that these parts here I didn't stamp. If I'd been more careful, I could have. We'll try and do better this time. But so then you could have, you know, your to-do list in here, right? And right in here, have her like cheering you on. How cute would that be? So let's do this. So all of these in like level 2 are going to be kind of just some basic masking. So the first thing to think about is, what do you want to have in front? What do you want to be closest in the front to be absolutely unhindered by any of the other parts? So, you know, in this one, she's in front. I could have her behind, but I have her in front of this, whereas I have this one behind the speech bubble. She's in front. You know, so you just gotta decide what thing you want to be furthest forward. You're going to start with that. So if I'm starting with a mermaid body in front, we'll do exactly the same one, I think. So that's this sitting one. And what's nice again about doing this on like some scrap paper or whatever is that I don't need to worry about where exactly, like if I were doing this right on my planner page, then I'd have to be guessing where to put this so that like it would be harder to place it because I would want the computer to be like in the box, and then I'd have to figure out where the body goes and do that. If you're doing it on a separate sheet of paper, it can be anywhere in space. It can be tilted and crooked as long as it's correct to itself. We can cut it out. We can glue it into the planner, and you can make sure it's like aligned and straight and whatever then. So for me, I'm going to be doing it on scrap. I'm going to be doing it on sticker paper and then using them as stickers. That is up to you what you want to do. So that means I don't have to worry right now about what way her body's oriented. I want it to be kind of close and to make it easier for myself, but I'm just going to do that. And actually, I'm going to move it down because you can do kind of the edges, but it's a little more challenging. So I'm going to actually do it all the way over here. All right. Then I'll add ink. Looks like I got a good impression. I always put my stamps all the way back as often as I can. I tend to be a person who works messy, and it's just, I don't want to lose any of my stamps. So I'm messy in all the other parts, but I try to be good about that. Okay, now I line up where I want this computer to be. So I want her on the corner. Here's where it takes a little practice to see where the stamped lines actually are going to be. And there's actually two lines, I think, here. There's an outer line and an inner line. And then there's the outer edge, which is separate. So let me see if I can get this both on camera and a little closer to where my head is. And we'll try lining that up. I'll close it. Now, here's where we need to get masking. So if I just stamp it, it's going to look like this, and it's going to be overlapping. So here's where I take my cheap or unloved washi. Again, I like to stick it to myself a couple times first. And then I want to cover the parts. I'm going to use some scissors, which weren't on my list, but you know, whatever. You've got them. I'm going to cover the parts of her that I don't want inked. So I can see that I've covered there, but there's still a bit of her tail. And I try to get this pretty close. I don't generally worry about it being absolutely perfect, but for the intricate ones, and you know, I will use sometimes an X-Acto knife to cut around. So, you know, for example, if I wanted this to follow the curve of her butt here, I can just like cut that. Often I find that I can make it work with just some more organic strips, and then I just give it a look and make sure that like through the window I don't see anything that looks like it's not going to be what I want. But you know, there's some tolerance for mistake here. It's not the end of the world. We'll ink that up. And I didn't get a great impression over here. I'm going to give it a little more pressure. All right, now you can use your fingers, you can use some tweezers, but you want to take this off. And this has ink on it that has not dried and will take longer to dry because it's on the washi tape. I recommend you get that out of your space as quickly as possible because you will end up putting your arms in it or, you know, like something. It just happens, or at least it happens to me. So get it gone. I have a little canister, like old tea canister that I keep on my desk. It's like a easy to access little trash can. So here you can see that I maybe got a little bit of overlap on that fin, but it's really not too bad. And I got it just right, but you know, I did lose this spot right here. And if I want to, I can just leave it. It's not a big deal. Or I can just draw it right here. And, you know, you'll never know. We should give this girl a head. I like these ones with the big floating hair. Although, we'll see if I have enough space for her. So, again, place the head where you want. It's a little hard to guess the neck. I tend to lean a little extra neck space if necessary. Your mileage will vary. All right, and there actually aren't like necessarily neck spaces, so again, you can just leave it. I tend to just give a little neck. And there you go. Now you've got your little mermaid on your planner love thing. And actually, I wonder if this would look better, you know, because she's sitting below it. Should we give it a try? Should we see if we can do better? Okay, so I wasn't paying attention and didn't mask, but honestly, I think it's really not that big a deal. If you have her sitting on like that, you could color those fins like a dark color, and I don't think you'd notice at all. So you don't have to mask if you don't want to. It's just a matter of what you like your things to look like. So, but there she's maybe a little more convincingly sitting, maybe. It's up to you. But now you can do it with all the functional stuff. There are some great ones in Book Lover 2. Oh, like this reminder could be really fun. You can have her interact with all kinds of things with like all kinds of different body language, right? Like this is a more reclining one that would work great on a box, or you know, or like laying out like stomach side down on it. Like you've got all kinds of options and they are a ton of fun. And I particularly like, you know, this one. This is from Bon Voyage. It's just a circle. Obviously, you could get a circle stamp from anywhere, but like, I think you could make it be like a bubble, right? I didn't do a great job masking on some of these because they were just for my personal use, but like having her kind of on a bubble, I think would be really fun. So the only things to remember are to pick which thing you want to be in the front and stamp that first, because whatever you stamp first will be in front of everything else, and then you mask the things you don't want to show through. All right, level 3. Who's ready to get a little crazy, a little silly? These are some more intricate combinations. So I went through all of my sticker kits to see what kinds of silly things I can combine together to make scenes or whatever. So this is the bike from Country Cottage, as is the rabbit. I tried two different ones. I think this one is more successful than that one, although this one's at least holding the handlebars. This is like a cake stand from Baked with Love. This is the koala from Australiana giving like a little hug. I think you could have it easily on like a tail too. That could be really fun. This is a little mermaid inside of a digital scale from Sunday Roast. This one I am pretty amused by. This is the tail of a koi fish from Dream Chaser. If you wanted a different style tail to your mermaid. This one here, we'll make sure she's happy. She's having a great time. But you know, inside a mug from Sweetheart. And then this one might be my absolute favorite. This is on a Vespa from a pretty old kit, Bon Voyage. So you can have all kinds of fun, and it's exactly the same techniques I showed you for this. It's just getting a little more intricate about it. So let's maybe recreate this girl on the bike, just so I can show you. It's exactly the same principles. You just might want to use your X-Acto knife a little more on the bike. So let's look at that. So I'm using that same body. I find that this sitting body has maybe the most uses for interacting with other things. And I want that to be on top because she's sitting on the seat. So we'll do that. I'll do the hair later. Let's do the bike first, because I'm not going to worry about the hair if I've messed up the bike. So we'll take the bike from Bon Voyage. No, not from Bon Voyage, from Country Cottage. And we could actually have her sitting on the seat. In the last one, she was sitting over the seat. Let's have her sitting on the seat. So I'm just trying to find where the line is that's going to stamp. I'm just going to, am I on camera? Yeah. So place it where I think it's going to go. And this one really benefits from being on scrap paper and giving it a little bit of a chance. So I want her fins to be, honestly, well, should we try it? I don't think we're going to actually need to do much masking for this particular one. I think it will be not quite perfect unmasked, but I think it's going to be very livable, to be honest with you. I didn't get a great ink on this middle section, so I'm just going to do a second pass. I mean, that's really not bad, right? I would call that perfectly livable. But if we're here to teach some techniques, let's go ahead and do it. So I'm going to wash that off. If I were doing multiples of exactly the same thing in the same place, I wouldn't have to wash in between. But because I'm going to want to place it again, I don't want it to be inked up because I want to be able to place it and not worry about it getting ink places. So this one is so big. Do the bike. And I know Oh no, we're too far over. Okay, I'm just gonna live with it, but I would want to move this over. But we'll make it work. Yeah. Okay, I didn't do quite a good enough job cleaning this. You can see there's a little bit of an imprint, but hopefully it's very light and hopefully it's going to be exactly. So I can see from here that the part I really want to protect is this fin here that's in front. Although really it would be well served by being behind, but it's complicated to do things that are both behind and in front. So I could have done the bike first and then have the fins behind, but I'm going to honestly just cover the whole fin, take my X-Acto knife, and I can see, so I want it to be flush with ink here. So I'm just going to kind of trace around it, pull up. No! Go. And then should we protect that little bottom fin too? It's a little fussier than I usually am, but we're here to teach. So again, take the X-Acto knife. I'm going very lightly. It doesn't take a lot of pressure to get through washi tape. Although I didn't get through it all the way, so you know. Now we can ink up the bike. And again, this is going to be made more challenging by the fact that it's on the edge here. So like it's uneven. Yeah, I can't get this spot because it's like on an edge. Yeah, close enough. Clean off the bike. And then I like to use, so I think I actually by mistake covered a little bit of the seat. No, it's not too bad actually. Again, if it's got ink on it, get rid of it immediately. It's just gonna make your life harder. Okay, so I didn't get her butt quite perfectly on the seat, but we did get the like masking perfectly, pretty close on the bike. So if I wanted to, I could just connect here and then it would be perfect. Except that I didn't get her butt on the seat. As I said, it's hard to get those lines just perfectly. Should we do the Vespa and then call it a day? Let's do the Vespa. So I want her body to be on top of the Vespa, and the body I used was this one here. All right, I'm gonna, no, we can do it here. So put the body down, because that's what I want to be on top. These are getting messy in here, I told you. They always do. There's just too many things out. Do the body. The Vespa, it's got some kind of intricate lines. And I don't have a great technique for if I want parts of things to be in front of and parts to be behind of, you know, in the same. So we don't have this absolutely perfect, but in terms of perspective, but I've lined it up to kind of where the butt is. And then I'm going to mask her body. This would be easier with a thicker piece of washi. Take my X-Acto knife. Let's see if I need to do any more of this. So none, well, I can't tell. So we'll trim on this side too, just in case any of the Vespa's peeking out from behind. Oh. I didn't do that perfectly. I've got a little, just gonna put it where I want it. But I do want the handlebars coming, and those are over her waist. You can be as intricate or as not intricate about this as it amuses you to be. You know, I'm just giving you options. I'm not saying you need to do any of this stuff. If you think, wow, that is way too fussy, I understand. It's not for everyone, and it's definitely not for all the time. And now I have a problem because, well, unfortunately I haven't stamped anything. It came off. So I'm going to want to replace this to make sure that it's exactly where I want it to be. And now actually I can make sure it works well with where I've masked. There we go. Let's give her a head. Should I show you one last technique? Let's do one last technique. So I like this head, but it's not facing in the direction that I want it. All right, I want her facing that way. This is challenging, but, and I've only done it once in one other video. So you want to find a stamp that is mostly solid. So I'm going to use this one from Book Lover 2. Okay, this technique would be better done earlier in the process before I have all this. So like if I wanted to do this, I should have done the head first and then the other things before, but we're going to do it. So a mostly solid stamp, but the stamping side is down. I want the absolutely flat surface to be here. I don't have to have it lined up properly. So I'm going to just put this head stamping side down. I'm going to pick it up like usual and ink it up, but I have the ink going onto the solid part of the stamp. Don't press too hard here because you'll lose definition. It's really easy to lose definition on this. Okay. Now I have this. I'm using it essentially like a stamping block. And let's take her off. Should have cleaned her first. Now I'm using this like a stamping block. I can line her up where I want her. I'm going to close this and just give a little bit of pressure here that way. All right, that actually turned out not bad for how uncertain I felt. So if you want to be flipping things, you can do it that way. It's a little more challenging, but hey, we're at level 3, or maybe that's level 4 now, is like mirroring. But actually, I didn't lose as much definition as I was afraid of. The ink gets a little blobbier that way, but like, look how fun that turned out. Now, let me clean up a couple things because I'm going to get ink everywhere if I'm not careful. All right, the last thing is we can do a little coloring. So I'm going to use this Colors of the World, color her in, and maybe some other things. What works well is going to depend on your paper. It's going to depend on your ink. So this works well for me in these scenarios. Some watercolor would also be fine. Also like a water pen to go with these would actually work pretty well. But I don't... All right, let's do that. I've talked myself into it. Let me find my water pen. I already talked myself out of it. I'm just going to use some water, a paintbrush, I'm going to spray a little water here. Be careful about it. I'm going to take my pen, my markers, pick a skin tone. I'm going to draw a little on here. You can't really see it because of the color of the background. I'm going to pick up a little water. I'm going to dab between the water and the ink, and then I'm going to paint. Now, this is going to depend on your paper. My paper actually isn't loving this, so I probably would have been better served by just coloring her in. So, you know, you learn things. It's fun to try. Would have been okay, I think. Except that I got like a dark spot there at the beginning, and then, you know, you don't want to get too much water on a paper that is not meant to have too much water on it. Here we go. Let's just do her hair normally. Just use it as a marker. Well, this color is too dark to keep the detail from the stamp, so I'm just going to do a little, and then I'm going to come in with a lighter color. How much you want to worry about shading and highlight is obviously entirely up to you. I'm not going to worry about it too much. And then let's take something a little bigger. Here's a bigger brush pen so that I don't have to use as many strokes to do the tail. I'm doing this extremely rough. Use a lighter color for the fins. And then for the Vespa, I'll have the Vespa be, I'm sorry. Let's have the Vespa be pink. Maybe a little more gray here for the tires. I don't know what that was. All right, so I wasn't as careful as I could be here because it's hard to do this on camera and it's slow, and I'm worried about my battery life because this has been a long video already. But regardless if you're at level 0, level 1, level 2, or level 3, and coloring or not coloring, I hope you found this helpful. I hope you found it inspiring. If you have any questions, leave them below. And hit the like button if you liked this. This was a fair amount of work to set up, so yeah, I've got to figure out what's a good use of my time or not. So if you liked it, that would really help me know. And if you have any questions, leave them below. All right, bye friends.